and thank you for joining us on the Nikki Maduro Show. I'm Nikki Maduro. She is the awesome Kim McAllister, and we are here the Thursday before the California governor's race. I'm going to drink for both of us today, Kim McAllister. I have my cocktail ready because we have coming up in just a moment none other than former CPUC President Loretta Lynch, who's been a longtime friend of the show and KGO. She's an expert on all things energy, regulatory, and is going to give us her endorsement for governor. So
I love her. I can't wait.
I'm so excited for this conversation. I'm so excited that she could do this right before people start turning in their ballots. If you guys have any questions for Loretta, put them in the comments and we will ask her because we're going to be talking about everything from the governor's race, obviously PG&E. And another thing I want to talk to Loretta about is AI and what it's doing. I mean, here in San Jose, we are building huge data centers. And what is that going to do to our rates and the preparation for it? Like, what if it doesn't pay out? What if there is this AI bubble? Are we, like probably, on the hook for all of this infrastructure payment? So Loretta's going to talk about it all. But before we get to that, you guys, as always, we are 100% crowdfunded. So if you could support the show, we have our PayPal live, Patreon is live. Also, a thumbs up does everything that we need, for YouTube. So share it with your friends. But if you can support the show, we love being here. We love bringing you these conversations and having them with you. So all the ways to donate to the show, of course, are in the show notes. So we always appreciate it. Okay. Ooh, what am I hearing? I'm hearing some music.
My mom's trying to call me.
Because she's trying to check on you, my friend. Do you want to take it?
No.
Moms are great. Okay,
other members of the family will be able to contact her.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right, well, let's do this right now. Let's bring none other than Loretta Lynch to the show. Again, former CPUC president, friend of the show, expert in all things energy, regulatory, and what have you. Loretta, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi.
Hey, Nikki and Kim. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we miss your face. Absolutely. Okay. Well, let's dive into it. Now, I before we get to your endorsement and all of that, I found this interesting article in Cal Matters. And it was corporations and special interest groups and how much they're spending against or for candidates, right? And for Tom Steyer, the amount of money corporations and special interest groups have paid out opposing his candidacy for governor, according to Cal Matters, is $32.3 million. And in support, only 1.4. That is a huge number. On the other hand, the most support of money went to Matt Mahan, whose campaign is completely fizzled out, San Jose mayor, 21.7 in support, only $570,000 in opposition. So that tells you a lot. Steve Hilton has about a 1.8 million opposing him and only 13,000 supporting him. But it's the Tom Steyer numbers that kind of blew me away. Becerra gets no money against him from corporations and special interest groups, which should also speak volumes, absolutely none, and 13 million in support of Javier Becerra from corporations and special interest groups. So the amount of money being spent is record-breaking in these primaries. California, this governor's race is spending the most amount of money. I know Tom Steyer is leading the way with all of that. PG&E has spent a lot to block Tom Steyer. He just spoke with KQED and talking about how he's going to be taking on the utility, taking on special interests. He has on his website his whole plan on how to, lower your electricity bills, which we'll also get into. But I guess first off, Loretta, let's just start with the biggest question. Who are you voting for governor of California?
Well, Nikki, once again, you have your finger on the pulse of where it should be, which is follow the money, right? And I was originally for Betty Yee because I think she is super qualified, never taken a corporate dime, and would have been a great governor. She dropped out.
Right.
So then who do you support? And while I originally had questions, even after he started putting millions of dollars up against the utilities, I now have absolutely no doubt in my mind I am supporting Tom Steyer for governor, and I'm happy to tell you why.
Okay, please do.
Well, he has the best plan to actually bring rates down. Now, the devil's in the details, and I don't think he gets everything right, but most importantly, he is sticking his neck out there and saying, this system doesn't work. It has to be fundamentally changed. And I'm not going to take their money and I'm going to change it. And what we know is they're scared because they wouldn't have spent $30 million if they weren't. And it's more than that, because it's their affiliated unions, it's their affiliated contractors, it's all sorts of money going in. And then, of course, the dark money, independent expenditures, we don't necessarily know all the money that all the utilities are spending. But we do know that they've spent at least 20 to 30 million against him. And I think that that is the best badge of honor that should tell people how to vote in this election that there is. If you want to actually have your utility bill controlled, if you want to stop, really break the connection between Sacramento and corporations, you got to go with somebody who's at least saying they'll do it. And there are only 3 top candidates who even have a chance of getting into the runoff. So I have not voted yet because I was holding out hope that there would be a more competitive race. There's not. So you have a choice of Hilton and Trump because they're just, linked at the hip, or perhaps lip to butt, hard to say. And you have a choice of Becerra, who is taking oodles of money from oil and gas, fossil fuel, and the utility companies. And in my experience, has always been this tight with utility companies in his other jobs. And then you have Steyer. And Steyer's at least talking the talk. So the whole point is, let's make sure that the talk and the talk becomes walking the walk.
When you talk about talking the talk, I understand that Steyer says he wants to lower our utility rates. He also wants to explore universal health care and getting that on board in California. I like the things he says. I don't know if he has experience in government trying to make these things happen. So how realistic do you think are his plans for reducing our PG&E bills and maybe getting a different CPUC on board that is more for the people instead of for the corporation? How realistic are his plans? And that you probably have looked into the nitty-gritty of how he's going to do what he says he wants to do.
Right. And just so you know, I'm not working for the Steyer campaign. They haven't paid me a dime. And frankly, I haven't talked to them about it. It's just, I am a voter and I'm a concerned citizen, and I am counter to the utilities' profligateness and their pillaging of California's economy. So just want to put it out there, because you should always follow the money and find out who's paying who. Right. And nobody's paying me. So here we are. Well, people are paying me to do work, but not on this case or not for any candidate. Anyway, so Steyer has no experience in government. Don't know what happened there.
Oh, no. We got you. Go ahead.
Froze a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. My screen went blank for a minute. So he's run some initiative campaigns, but, that's all contracted out. So it's going to be key and critical who he brings in with him and who he appoints. But what I know is a governor can control the PUC really quickly if he wants to. And Steyer, well, all the top 3 are he. So I'm just going to talk about the next governor as a he once again, sadly. But here we are. That's the choice we have. And it's a clear choice. So Steyer would have 2 seats immediately. There's a total of 5. And he could appoint other folks around the PUC, but perhaps he can get somebody to leave in for a judgeship or who knows what else, right? So all he needs is 3. And when I first went on the PUC, there were just 2, but I was the president. And so I could direct the staff. So there's a lot the president can do in directing the staff, and he will have immediately on day 1 the ability to appoint the president. So he puts in 2 new people, one of whom would be president, and we stop the really cozy, bordering on corrupt relationships between the regulator and the regulated. And that's why the utilities know their gravy train will come to an end with Steyer. He may not do everything I'd want, but even if he did 50% of what needed to be done, that would be, 500% more than Becerra's going to do, because Becerra owes the utilities and the oil and gas folks and all the corporate connections that he's always ever had. So you can always wonder, okay, how do you know? Seems like a nice guy, right? Well, let's just take a look at his record. When he was Attorney General, PG&E had already feloniously killed dozens of people through their criminal negligence. Already been established in San Bruno, but we had the coffee fire. We had a bunch of fires on his watch as AG. And courageous little county district attorneys went and indicted PG&E for their criminal negligence in those fires. Where was the AG? AWOL. The AG never came into those cases. PG&E poured lawyers and money and resources up against those little Butte County, Shasta County, Placer County DAs. And those DAs got buried in legal maneuvering. And the AG never, ever, ever once threw a lifeline to help. So talk about walking the walk or not. And that's my concern with Javier Becerra.
Yeah, he concerns me too. And I really, the whole idea of following the money is crucial. And the whole outsider thing with Tom Steyer, I think is a valid concern. But the one that I keep bringing up is Lori in San Francisco. Now, I know two completely different jobs, but still massive problems that you have to deal with. And for all intents and purposes, a lot of the polling shows San Franciscans are very pleased with Lurie. So maybe this idea of an outsider who isn't as beholden as Becerra is to some of these corporate interests that he has to kind of pay back could be a good thing. On Steyer's website, just kind of digging into some of the other details. Mm-hmm. Another thing he talks about that you've talked about a lot, Loretta, is these projects that are greenlit and are the most expensive ways of getting things done. And Steyer says, things will not get greenlit without sufficient scrutiny, especially when there are cheaper, faster, and better ways to upgrade the system. Every investment should enhance the quality and affordability of the system. That's fine and dandy. Does he have control over that? I mean, again, is it just go back to the CPUC?
It all goes back to the PUC. So for instance, I have been working on a wildfire cost case with an environmental group in San Diego. And they have demonstrated that SDG&E will spend $933 a mile to send a drone with customized AI to go inspect a pole. Or you can spend $3 a mile to send a qualified person to go drive by that pole and inspect it. And if they need to climb the pole, then it costs $33 a mile. $3, $33, or $933. I bet you know what SDG&E chooses all the time, right? And PG&E is similar. I don't have their exact cost numbers, but we are talking exponentially more expensive, these ridiculous drone programs that actually don't catch everything that a person can catch, because the drone can't go in and take a core sample of a pole to see if it's rotting. A drone can't go in and know, because you got 20 years of experience, that because the pole is just a little bit like that, it means it's okay, or just a little bit like that, and it means it's going to fall down within the week. Right? The drone's just going to be taking pictures and using AI, and somebody's going to be programming that AI, which is, of course, contracted out at top dollar. So it's that kind of profligate spending. Oh, and by the way, they're still doing some inspections, like in the cities. Okay, I don't mind having the poles inspected in the cities, but the problem here is San Francisco's not at high wildfire risk. Right? Santa Rosa is, and all those other urban wildland interfaces. And we don't need drones. It's really people over machines. And utilities have it backwards, because the utilities want to do machines over people. Why? Because they make a 10% profit off of every dollar that they spend on a machine. And they don't make a profit. They just get all of their costs covered on every dollar they spend on a person. So I think that it's a really good idea to make the utilities show alternatives and then actually use the most cost-effective one. Right now, Gavin Newsom's PUC is buying the line that because there was the Palisades fire and that was so expensive, we should be able to spend, the utilities should be able to spend any amount of money to prevent a future fire, because their cost benefit analysis says every single future fire could be the Palisades fire. And since that was billions of dollars, We can spend a few less billions of dollars on anything we can cook up, and that is beneficial, net beneficial. Now, that's just ridiculous because what they could be doing is sending that guy out in a truck and walking or driving every single mile they have. That's not what they do.
It's infuriating, but also it's this also idea that we're locked into the PG&E monopoly, which is another issue that not just Steyer has talked about, but even Steve Clinton has talked about, right? Like this idea of another way to reduce rates for PG&E users is to have another option, that the monopoly needs to be broken up. How likely do you think any person that gets the governor's job is going to be able to do something like that? Specifically like in San Francisco, that's been trying for a while.
Well, the governor could make it a lot easier for San Francisco to secede from PG&E, or the governor can make it a lot harder. The problem is these years of hangover spending have to be paid by somebody. And so what you get is what's called the utility death spiral. So if you get 5% of the customers leaving, then that means 95% of the customers have to pay 100% of the excessive costs. And then that'll cause another 5% to leave. And then that means 90% of the customers have to pay 100% of the excessive costs. The issue isn't really, can we come up with another model? Although I am a public power supporter. The issue is getting the excessive costs down, cutting the costs, cutting the profit. And remember, PG&E, all the utilities make 10% profit. That means if you spend $1, they get 10 cents. If you spend $1 million, they get $100,000. So they're always cooking up ways to spend $1 million. That's the problem. And what we need to do is get the rate of profit down. And that's why public power works, because public power has no profit. It's just cover the costs. And right there, you actually save more than 10% because remember, profit is income. And that means PG&E has to pay taxes. And who pays those taxes? We do. So PG&E last year in 2025 posted their third consecutive year of record-breaking profits. They made $2.6 billion in profit. And we are also going to pay the taxes on that profit, which goosed up under the PUC system is going to be over $4 billion overall for the profit and the taxes. That is outrageous and it has to stop. And Steyer's the only one who says he will stop it. So I'm going to take him at his word because frankly, there's no other game in town when it comes to reducing the utilities profits. And that is something the PUC could do within 6 months.
So here's some comments. I have this one from Vanessa who says, Steyer talks a good game, but with no experience, will he know how to follow through? Also, I saw Agent Kitty Feet says she said Becerra makes her uncomfy. But Vanessa says, I don't trust a billionaire. Where there's great wealth, there's crime, which I don't know if that's true, but it kind of leads me to this question about buying the governorship, because Steyer's put a lot of money into this effort to be the California governor. So I guess it's do we want someone who's beholden to companies because they've received donations from all these people that they're going to turn around and then have their hand out to ask something in return? Or do we have somebody in there who used his own money to basically buy the governor's seat? And what's worse, do you have any concerns about either of these things?
Sure, absolutely. That's why I was originally for Betty Yee.
Yeah.
Out of college, she didn't go work for a hedge fund. She went to work for the state of California, right? Woohoo, public servant all along. That said, that's not our choice, right? Our choice is between essentially two Democrats, unless you're going to go vote for Steve Hilton. And if you are, well, there you go.
Why are you here?
We can't help you. Yeah.
We're not talking about, who's the theoretical best choice. We're talking about what choice do you have? And yeah, I'm concerned that he's a billionaire. That just rubs me the wrong way. I'm a progressive populist, right? But he is. And at least he's saying the right things. And frankly, he has somewhat of a record of doing the right things in the last 10 years. So, he started Next Gen California, and that was a clean energy nonprofit. He did go after, he wanted to tax the oil and gas guys more. He has a lot of the environmental community behind him. There are some things I completely disagreed with him about. He was for regionalization, which was expanding the markets, because how did he make his money? In the market. So he's a markets kind of guy. Don't like that. So it really is going to matter who he appoints in the key political positions. So for instance, he may not need to know the budget. I frankly hope that he appoints Betty Yee as his finance director, because she has 40 years of knowing the budget.
Absolutely.
Right? And that would make my comfort level go way up. So, what would be very interesting, which isn't going to happen. So if he gets through, great. He doesn't have to promise anybody anything, right? But if it turned out that both Steyer and Becerra got through, well, then we could really try to hold him accountable by asking him to commit. Who's he going to appoint for finance director? Who's he going to appoint for health and human services, or whoever else, right?
Sure.
And I agree with Rev P 369. I was very interested in Porter, although I have to say her energy platform was not as good as Steyer's. But she doesn't take corporate money. Good for her. But you're right. She's in 5th place. She has 7% in all the polls, and she's not going up. And that October, attack on her, which I believe that Mr. Villaraigosa did, but it might have been Mr. Swalwell, really stuck. And that's a bummer, because, girls can be tough and they're called the B word, and guys can be tough and they're called assertive. And here we are.
Exactly. I was a Porter girl. I really thought I was going to vote for Porter no matter what. But with the fact that Hilton looks like he could possibly be the second candidate, I'm not going to do that. But I was a Katie Porter girl from the very beginning. I'm disappointed that her campaign wasn't able to take off as much as I wanted her to. But let's talk a little bit about Steve Hilton's platform for any of our conservative friends that do watch the show. So I just want to throw some of these ideas that are part of Steve's plan that's on his website. One of it is repeal climate mandates that drive up electricity costs. He says California's energy policy should stop mandating specific technologies and outcomes that raise bills and undermine reliability. Through appointments and executive orders to relevant regulatory bodies and state agencies, he says he'll repeal climate mandates that force utilities into costly energy choices and wasteful spending. Thoughts?
So dirty up the planet?
Exactly. I mean, on the same day that Donald Trump says, he's going to be rolling back PFAS rules and things like that, we're not looking for environmentalists within the Republican Party. But what is your take on his idea of that repealing climate mandates is one of the huge problems California has? I hear this argument constantly from my conservative friends and family. Air travels. Why do we have these strict rules when one state over, they're doing whatever they want and they pay less? Like, we don't live in this bubble type of thing. But I always counter that, like, with as California goes, so does the rest of the nation. We lead by example. We have certain things that we want to do. And that's my mentality. What do you think, Loretta?
Well, not necessarily. We're surrounded by a whole bunch of red states that are, the air pollution knows no bounds, and they are just polluting up a storm.
Right.
So we cannot assume that what we do in climate, Utah and Wyoming and Montana are going to follow. In fact, we need to protect ourselves and make sure that we are not subject to a majority rule in the West, because if we are, we're dead, right? Politically and economically and climate-wise, because there are too many states that have their head in the sand about scientific facts. But let's actually put the environmental considerations aside. As you say, for your Republican listeners, let's talk about the economy. And it is just a scientific fact that wind, solar, and geothermal is cheaper than gas, coal, and nuclear. Number one, California doesn't have any coal plants. And so what are you going to do? Build them? Man, is that expensive. In fact, the Chamber of Commerce in other states is like in Michigan, right? It's a fossil state, but they've closed their coal plants because they're so expensive to run. And so Trump has ordered Michigan's coal plants to stay open. And the Chamber of Commerce has said, wait a minute, that's going to increase our bills. No. We're not even talking about making sure that they don't spew crap in the air. We're just saying it's really expensive to run a coal plant, right? So if we just look at the numbers on the money, it is cheaper to do solar, wind, and battery storage than it is to do nuclear. Hello, Gavin Newsom wants to extend the life of Diablo Canyon until 2045, and Diablo Canyon is the most expensive plant we have in the state, and PG&E, part of those record profits comes from a statutory deal for Diablo Canyon that, guess what, PG&E wrote, and it advantages PG&E. Imagine that. Imagine that. So on the economics, it is cheaper to do solar storage or solar plus storage and wind plus storage with a little bit of gas. And that gas needs to be not the old stinky gas plants, right? Not the one on Potrero Hill, which thankfully has closed. But there are 7 really old 1950s and 60s gas plants up and down the coast of California that cost an arm and a leg to run. Why? Because they're like a 1950 Jaguar, right? The parts break all the time. It's really expensive to run. It barely runs. It's certainly not going to like win a race around a track. And so when we have to run those plants, it's like saying, okay, go get the Jag ready to run a race. It's way expensive to run those plants. Why would we do that? Oh, and by the way, they heat up the ocean, they kill the fish and the whales, and they pollute like heck.
I feel like here's a comment from Dee. She says, I'm genuinely wondering why Democrats should vote for Tom Steyer if he's currently 8 points behind in the polls, because the concern is, right, that the Republicans, if we can't line up behind a candidate, are going to rise to success in this blue state. She says, wouldn't it make more sense for Democrats to unite behind the strongest Democrat? I had a conversation with my sister earlier. We're talking about who to vote for, Becerra or Steyer at this point. And I told her I feel like Becerra's like checks all the Democrat boxes. Like with him, it's boring, but you know what you're going to get. With Steyer, his platform is exciting, but he's also kind of a question mark as to whether he can do the things he says he's going to do, or whether he'll actually do the things he says he's going to do, or he's just trying to kind of appease voters and slide his way into the governor's seat. What are your thoughts about kind of the uncertainty surrounding Steyer and what he says versus what may actually happen?
Sure. First, I want to address the polling issue. 2 polls came out today. One was the public policy poll and one was some other poll. One showed Becerra up and one showed Steyer up.
Okay.
One showed Steyer with momentum, and the people who haven't yet voted, he's up 10 points over Becerra. But this is what we know. Most likely, Steve Hilton is going to be one of the 2, right? You got to assume so. But the good news is, frankly, because Trump came out and endorsed Steve Hilton, Chad Bianco, truly MAGA nutcase, has fallen, right? And so he's not going to be one of the 2. So it actually, we know that there's going to be at least one Democrat and most likely one Republican, or there will be 2 Democrats. Those are the only 2 scenarios. And so in that scenario, you should vote for one of the viable Democrats, which is Becerra and Steyer. And between the 2, Steyer is clearly the best choice because at least he's promising change. Becerra is not. But there's something else that's lurking in the background that is catastrophically bad if it happens. And this is what Katie Porter was talking about, which is Becerra's former chief of staff just took a plea deal for bribery or fraud, for campaign finance violations, a whole laundry list of things he was charged with. And then he pled to a couple of them. And the other person who was Becerra's political advisor also just 2 weeks ago took a plea deal. Now, Becerra says, I'm the victim. I knew nothing. Sergeant Schultz, I knew nothing. The problem is between the 2 folks who pled. So originally the political consultant, Dana Williamson, wasn't going to plead. She was going to fight, but then she took a plea. And you don't get a plea deal unless you've got something to trade with the prosecutor. And the problem is the 2 people who pled have inconsistent stories. This guy says, I didn't talk to Becerra. And she says, this guy told me he talked to Becerra and Becerra knew. Now, I don't know what the truth is. Here's the problem. What happens if there is a September or October surprise? Because the woman who just pled is getting sentenced in September before the election. And what happens if there's a bombshell new allegation before her sentencing where she gets home arrest and Becerra gets splattered with who knows what. At that moment, we will have a damaged Democrat and a Republican.
Yeah.
And I am not going to take that risk.
I agree with you. I mean, and again, I didn't even think about like kind of the October surprise when I was thinking I wasn't even thinking the long game regarding this, because of course I'm still holding out hope that it's going to be like Becerra and Steyer. I like the idea of holding both of their feet to the fire and getting the specifics, because Javier Becerra, just to talk about him, he has not given any sort of real detailed plan regarding our high utility bills. He said in one social media post and in a debate that as governor, he would, quote, immediately institute a freeze on utility rates while the state investigates long-term solutions to bring these costs under control. That means literally nothing to me. Can he actually freeze utility rates? Does he have the power to do that?
Well, the PUC could maneuver it as a freeze. He can't just say freeze.
You'll never pay more.
You'll never pay more. But here's the problem. Hey, I think the utilities would love that deal, because in the last 10 years, from 2015 to 2025, PG&E's rates have more than doubled. More than doubled. Hey, baby. So I would love it if somebody's paying me $1 million a year and then I get a salary freeze. But the problem is, right now, today's rates are way too high. And I actually agree with Steyer. They are way too high by at least 25%. I would argue they're way too high by at least 40%. But we can get them down 25% for sure with 3 or 4 fixes that the PUC controls. And he's not talking about that, Becerra. So freezing at an unsustainably high rate where the 3 utilities, all 3 of them had record profits last year, is basically promising everybody that he's going to freeze, and these guys are going to have record profits this year too. Right. I mean, Edison tripled its profits last year to $4.9 billion. The same year that they burned everybody out of the Eaton fire through their absolutely criminal negligence. So here we are. He wants to freeze that in place? $4.9 billion in record profits? SDG&E had $1.8 billion, which actually sounds kind of good, except for until you realize that SDG&E only has 10% of the customer base. So their profits are extraordinary based on how many customers they have. Give me a break. We cannot accept the status quo. That is not the answer.
I feel like they're not listening, because we hear kitchen table issues and affordability, the pocketbook, the egg prices. These are the things that move and drive elections, that these are the things that are important. I can tell you here at my house, a $600 PG&E bill just about wiped us out.
Yep, I just had the same thing. Just had a $600 bill. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
We're just a family of 4. I turn the lights off. I walk around. I make sure, I unplug things to make sure there's no extra power flowing in. Like, we're really careful, and still these rates are exorbitant. So you would think then that politicians would go, okay, affordability is important to the voters. What can I do? One of the things that I do have control over are PG&E rates. And I know it's all about money. You said Steyer, or whoever is governor, would have control over these 2 spots on the CPUC. What about the other 3? And can you move, just because there's the presidency and they kind of control, for the CPUC, what things are brought before, and there's power there, but can you really make a dent and make a move in our power rates with only 2 of the 5?
No, you have to have a vote of 3. And I know that very well, because for my 5.5 years on the PUC, I often had 2 and rarely had 3. Why? Because the other ones were Republicans or corporatist Democrats who were just in the pocket of the utilities. They just were. And I can show you why, because then they went on utility boards, right? One of my colleagues who often did not vote with me is now on the Semper board. Right? So there you go. So, and then one of my colleagues was the president of Edison. So, it completely matters who it is. But the president of the PUC has a lot of power to slow things down and speed things up and relook at things. And so that's, a lot of that can happen until the governor can persuade somebody else to leave. Maybe somebody switches because they're politically ambitious. It's hard to know. But what I do know is between the Energy Commission, the independent system operator, and the PUC, the governor has a lot of control over how electricity works, and also how much we're going to pay.
Right.
Now, it won't happen immediately, but it could happen within 6 months. And it's not surprising that you guys are hurting. You know why? Because in May of 2025, this commission, the current commission, 3 of them are going to stay, right? Gave PG&E an 11% rate increase in 25, and then an additional rate increase for the next 3 years, which would total over a 20% rate increase. Just, hey, gravy, 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 and some icing and some cherries.
Yeah.
Uncle Jim wants to know if you have any thoughts on any other statewide races beside governor.
Sure do.
Please have at it.
Yeah,
Well,
please let us know.
I'm voting for Michael Tubbs for lieutenant governor because I think he's the best progressive.
Are you? We interviewed him a lot on KGO because he's a former mayor of Stockton. That's the Michael Tubbs, right? Yeah, young guy. You like him a lot?
I do. And the other 2 major candidates are corporatist Democrats. And, I am so over corporatist Democrats. As you were saying, they talk and talk and talk about affordability. And then they take and take and take a whole lot of campaign contributions from corporations. And then they do actually nothing. So talk, 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 talk. We've had a lot of that. Let's have some action. And I know how to act because I was in a position to act and I acted, frankly, to my political detriment. Okay, you're supposed to have some courage when you're in these positions, right? Sure. And so people who are career politicians who've really just always taken the safe way and never, ever stuck their neck out, not indicting PG&E for those fires while he was Attorney General, right? What was that about? So Michael Tubbs, absolutely. And then who else am I? Oh, I'm voting for Jane Kim for Insurance Commissioner.
Oh, you are? Okay, good.
Because Jane has the fortitude and the progressive record to actually hold the insurance companies to account. Lots of other people have good ideas and talk, but I've seen their record in the legislature, and they're cautious.
I would say that besides governor, the insurance commissioner in California is one of the biggest and most important jobs because of what we're losing in California. People can't even get insurance, homeowners insurance. Yeah. It kind of goes hand in hand with our electricity rates because of how many of these fires have been tied to PG&E and how they're using that as a guise to raise our rates. Insurance commissioner is a huge position that I'm going to be actually closely following because we have got to get that under control in California. People can't even afford to insure their homes anymore.
Right.
Exactly. And then there are 2 really competitive congressional races in the Bay Area. And I'm voting for Connie Chan in San Francisco. I think she is phenomenal and she will not be beholden. And
that's
then
over Scott Wiener, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I stood with Scott at press conferences where he would propose bills for public power and then they would go nowhere. And not surprisingly, he proposed bills for public power when he was running for office. So I think Scott's a good guy. Happy to have a beer with him, but he is the corporatist Democrat in this race.
Yeah.
And then I would vote if I lived in Oakland for Aisha Wahab. She is a truly courageous lawmaker, and she could actually repair the damage that's been done by Eric Swalwell for her constituents.
Speaking, just because you mentioned his name and it's like debate, you mentioned the name, so you have to talk about it. Eric Swalwell, were you shocked
no.
by the news and that he pulled out? No. Okay. Not at all, huh?
Well, I didn't know anything in particular, but there were rumors, but you can't just rely on rumors. It's more just that he was a bro.
Yeah.
Right.
And he got all of it seems like all of his support seemed to swing towards Becerra, which not that you have to tie Becerra and Swalwell together, but it's this kind of typical Democratic candidate when I feel, and Kim, we've talked about this many times, we need a shakeup in California. While on one hand, I don't want to shake it up so much we go Republican, I also don't want the status quo Democrat. The status quo Democrat has gotten us, or at least stood by while we've been in many of these messes. And so we need somebody different.
Well, and also the status quo Democrat is not listening to their constituents who are saying, hey, affordability has to mean something more than just a word. I want to know what you're going to do to actually help me. And the problem here is because we've got grifter in chief Trump espousing the same words and, of course, doing exactly the opposite, people are getting super cynical. And long ago and far away, Bill Clinton said, a cynic is only a disappointed idealist. Like, yeah, exactly. Because we know when we are Charlie Brown and they are Lucy pulling the football out from us. We are not stupid people. None of us are. And at some point, enough people have said, I would rather burn the whole system down because I don't trust anybody. And, you know, I've had days where I feel that way. I'm sure you guys have had too. And so that tells us that the status quo isn't working for anybody and we have to change, which is why I am willing to take a flyer on a former billionaire who has lots of, you know, skeletons in his past in terms of his investments, because he is saying the right things and he is going after the utilities. And he's frankly saying the right things on single payer. I mean, talk about Charlie Brown and Lucy. Gavin Newsom got the nurses endorsement in 2010 by saying he was going to do single payer, and then he never did.
No. Theoretically, Tom Steyer wins, and he hears Loretta Lynch talking about all the former CPUC issues, and he calls Loretta and says, hey, Loretta, what do you think about coming back on the CPUC and helping me out with some policy? And you say...
I would say, you know, the first governor candidate I ever worked for was John Vandekamp in 1990. And I had stars in my eyes how I was going to go work for him and help pick judges because I was a baby lawyer then. This is 1990. And he lost to Dianne Feinstein in the primary. So I don't count my chickens. What I do is, you know, what does Nancy Pelosi say? You organize and make the change.
Yeah, there you go. Can we talk a little bit about the bill? You mentioned it a little bit. How our rates have been going up. This, what it started, I believe it was in March, where this baseline service charge change has been happening to our bills. Reading my PG&E bill is becoming like I need a degree in something to understand where all of these charges are coming from, if I can dispute anything. Also, there's different, so there's like Evergreen Gas and Electric, which is one of these companies where you can kind of take your gas off of PG&E, although you're still paying PG&E, and do it through them. There's so many different ways that people are trying to lower their bill, but I don't know about you. My bill keeps going up. And what I've read is people that are using less energy are actually paying more since the change than those that never changed it or are using more energy. Can you explain it to us so that we understand what the hell's going on? Because I don't understand.
Sure. It used to be that if you used more, you paid more, right? And not only did you pay more just because you used 2 units, and so 2 units cost more than 1 unit, but that 10th unit actually on a unit price cost more. And so you had both volumetric charges, and then as you used more, energy hogs got charged even more for that last little bit, because that last little bit is the most expensive to pay for. Well, PG&E realized that people could actually take some of this into their own hands and conserve, or go around like Kim does and unplug at 4 o'clock when the rates go up, right? I do too. You can't, my entire family is like, oh my God, okay, I'll unplug, right? We now run our dishwasher in the middle of the day because we have solar. And so we're trying to soak up the solar, right? And so the dishes get really, really crusty because you don't run them until the sun shines, even though they're last dinner's dishes. So yeah, everybody has these kinds of things. Or you weather strip, or you change out your light bulbs, right? Or you don't turn the lights on, whatever.
The things they're telling us to actually do to save money.
So people started doing that. And guess what? Sales went down. And people started installing solar. And so what did PG&E do? They convinced Gavin to make a war on solar. And so solar customers are getting, you know, nibbled to death like ducks, really. It's just extraordinary, all the fees and extra things they're putting on solar customers for no good reason, except for PG&E would like your money, thank you. And so here we are, we've all conserved, yay, but PG&E needs to keep buying stuff so that they can make a 10% profit on all the stuff, right? And if the numbers aren't going to work out, they've convinced the PUC, and frankly, with the agreement by the legislature, oh my gosh, to separate out this volume charge into a fixed charge. Well, because, some of the stuff is just fixed and it doesn't matter how much you use. And so now, instead of changing from a volume charge to a fixed charge, they have both charges, because why not charge more based on whatever they want to cook up to say that there should be in the fixed charge, and also charge you a volume charge. So they didn't back off the volume charge, they just added a charge. Hence, we got to take a sharp pencil, very sharp pencil. I don't know if my pencil's that sharp, to each and every cost category. So I was supporting Tasha Borner. She had a bill, AB 1774, which was going to audit just the wildfire expenses for the last 5 years, right? Because they keep going up, up, up. I mean, literally like this, right? So now we've spent over $20 billion in wildfire prevention, where you would think at some point we've actually done the prevention. Imagine that, right? But, then they come up with this drone program. So we've already inspected all the poles, but now we're going to inspect them with a drone for exponentially more money, $3 versus $933 a pole or a mile, right? Whatever. So they're just coming up with all these ideas. So she's like, well, let's audit them before they get more money. And everybody voted for it in committee. And then it was just quietly killed.
Who killed it?
Well, of course, the utilities. Come on, give me a break, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, but like, why? And I know this is the most naive question, but why do they have so much power on getting legislation that it would seem all their constituents want? Why does that continue to happen? Is it because we're about to get somebody through Becerra that's beholden to these people, and that's what gives me pause when voting?
Well, that, it's a good government thing to have accountability. We should make sure that they actually, because what happened was originally there was one audit series for 2019 and 2020, and it showed that the utilities either did not spend about 25 to 30% of the money that they had been given, or they spent it on things that they weren't authorized to spend it on. So we said, hey, your stairs are falling apart. Go spend some money to fix the stairs. And instead they repainted the house. And then the next year they come back and say, hey, our stairs are falling apart. We need some money to fix the stairs, right? Yeah. No. It's called double dipping. And so because they do it on a, let's look at this year, let's look at next year kind of basis, Tasha Borner said, well, let's audit them, right? And let the chips fall where they may. If they can prove what they spent it on and that was a good idea, great, give them more. If they can prove that we need it. They weren't going to have that. And it gets back to your original point, which is follow the money. Follow the money.
It's scary. We do have a question from Leon. Google, what's the safest energy form? By far, it's nuclear power. Solar is 300 times more dangerous, maybe more by now, as the WHO report I read came out in 2015. Why? I guess just first react to that, but not so much the solar 3 times more dangerous, I guess, if you know that statistic, but the idea of nuclear energy being the safest. We were talking a little bit about Diablo, but when it goes bad,
it's
bad. Really bad. So, and we're an earthquake country. You know what I mean? Like that's the problem with Diablo. Like we're an earthquake country. And so what are your thoughts on that?
One word, Fukushima.
Exactly.
And the problem here with Fukushima is everybody thought that the tsunami wave could not be more than 30 feet because there'd never been a more than 30-foot tsunami wave. And so Fukushima was smashed not only by a reactor meltdown, but by a tsunami that was more than 30 feet high. And that's really what caused some of the most atrocious damage. Well, guess what? PG&E is not prepared for a more than 30-foot tsunami. And it is on the coast of California. So it is in prime tsunami danger. And what did PG&E want to do? They wanted the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to change the rules so that they wouldn't have to withstand a more than 30-foot tsunami. What? And so that's why there's this deal of PG&E is not going to get a new license. Why? Because they can't meet the safety requirements for a new license. They're just going to get a license extension. So frankly, Gavin had Biden give them a license extension for 5 years. And now he wants a 15-year license extension. Wow. And then, of course, it's just a deal with the Trump administration. Are they going to jerk Gavin around or not, right? Is their desire for nuclear power more than their desire for screwing Gavin, right? So here's the problem. It's not safe, and it cannot be made safe at Diablo Canyon. And then if you're going to go build a new one, they are extraordinarily expensive. And that is not even talking about what are you going to do with the waste? We're talking about just immediate earthquake damage, and you cannot meet the current safety rules without even talking about the nuclear waste, or, by the way, all the environmental damage that happens from uranium mining and the tailings from the mining. Well, okay, maybe that doesn't happen in the United States, so why do we care? Give me a break. It is one of the most dangerous, highly toxic materials to mine. And so you've got the mining, which isn't in that Google report or in that report. You've got the waste, not considered. And very clearly, you've got the earthquake risk in California, absolutely not considered, because there are only a few nuclear plants that are subject to earthquake risk. And guess what? The biggest problem is in California. Yeah. Have you ever been to Avila Beach? If you go to Avila Beach and you go to a hotel, there's a huge sign in every hotel room about what to do when you hear the nuclear siren. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, I agree. So Ann says, when solar started ramping up, why didn't PG&E grab on and become the primary leader and seller of solar to stay on the cutting edge?
Well, you'd have to ask them that. And the reason is because they'll make less money. That's why. Yeah. Even if they owned the solar panels, they've already spent billions of dollars on Diablo, billions of dollars on gas plants. And so frankly, they already had plenty of fossil and stinky energy to sell us. And they saw solar as a threat. So they didn't buy, they didn't want to put solar on our roofs because they wouldn't make enough money. Because essentially, once you put the solar panel up and get the profit from that, then they're not profiting off the production, right? Whereas right now they're profiting off the production of Diablo and the gas plants. That's the problem.
I do want to add just another kind of angle to the whole, health of the state, what's best for the residents that live here when it comes to energy. And I want to throw in the issue that's, garnering so many headlines right now, which is AI. There was one article, I live in San Jose, obviously, so it piqued my interest. It says data centers for AI could nearly triple San Jose's energy use. We know how much energy, how much water these AI data centers use. We've heard horror stories about the pollution of the water, how people, especially if they are off wells in some parts of the country, they don't even have any water. It trickles out now because it's all being siphoned to these data centers. But there's also this other angle of, are we overbuilding these AI data centers? And then could there possibly be a bubble, yet we're on the hook for everything that the infrastructure that we've already paid for?
Oh, absolutely. We're in the wild, wild west of which AI companies are going to make it and which aren't. And right now, all the AI companies are telling their investors, we're going to make it. And so all the AI companies want PG&E and the other utilities to subsidize their data center to be able to say, hey, we're gonna buy all this energy, so you give us a break on the price. You give us a break on the connection. You give us a break on all the infrastructure additions that are going to be needed if you brought us on as a customer. And so they're making these deals with PG&E to give them a break. And how many deals can PG&E make to give all of them a break? And when they go bust, we're going to be left holding the bag. And so that's the problem with this excessive infrastructure costs. Instead, what PG&E should be doing is just upgrading their current infrastructure to be able to handle more. There's some basic upgrades. It's kind of like making sure that everything's working in your car right, so that it gets more mileage, right? That the tires are inflated correctly and all that kind of stuff. You can do those kinds of mini fixes to this current grid system at a lot lower cost, and then get more out of the system. But that doesn't give PG&E a profit, right? It's kind of like changing the light bulb out for an LED. You get more from it at a cheaper cost over time. But that doesn't give PG&E more of a profit. They'd rather just build more. And so their interests are aligned with the data center interests. And both of those interests are opposed to the rest of us. Because if the data centers don't pay their complete share, not their average share, which is what they're calling the fair share, oh, we'll pay what you pay. No, because the rates are going up because of you. So you should pay for the incremental.
Yeah.
Right? If we didn't have to build more with the current system, and then Mr. 800-pound gorilla wants to come and use the current system, then Mr. 800-pound gorilla should pay for all the upgrades, not just their 5% more share of the upgrades. So when you hear fair share, think they're foisting their costs on you.
Can I switch to, I don't know if you have any other questions about AI data centers, but I'm reading a lot about and I know this is a different kind of energy. We're talking oil and drilling off the coast of California. I know the Trump administration is trying to start, wreaking havoc on our environment and drilling off of our coast. And because of the Iran war, we know America's pile of emergency oil is shrinking. How does the next governor, and is this something the CPUC is involved in, keep California's oceans safe, our marine sanctuaries safe, and keep this from happening?
It's not. The PUC doesn't do oil. There is a Office of Oil and Gas Development. It's called BOGR, and I don't remember what that acronym means or spells out. But so it's the state of California, and the next governor would have some say, and the legislature. So right now we have a moratorium, and we're going to have to fight it out in court.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to fight for a Congress that will stop that stuff.
Yeah. One of the things I like that Governor Gavin Newsom at least tried to do, I don't know how effective it's been, is creating this task force to kind of look at oil and look at oil prices and, try to hold the oil companies accountable when it seems like price gouging is afoot.
Yeah, or he could have just imposed penalties and asked the AG to go sue them.
He couldn't have been beholden to the CPUC, right? He just could have done something about that while he was governor.
Yeah, there's a task force approach. Why don't we study that some more, and then we'll come up with ideas, or you could actually act.
The minute she said task force, I'm like, or.
And Cindy says next governor needs to appoint Loretta and other common sense people to the PUC. Thank you for another excellent show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the $10 donation, Cindy. Yeah, I completely agree.
Let's get the right next governor. That's the problem. And I have been where you have been, Kim, which is this guy doesn't have any experience. He's untested. Where he's selling us a bill of goods. Maybe, but at least he's talking and the other ones aren't. Yeah. And so you got to go with the guy who's at least promising something new.
It's kind of a dark horse, although I agree that it would, it's definitely more interesting and perhaps better for California than just, the status quo.
Thank you.
But also, this is the other piece of it, I think. They are coming after him, and they are just throwing the kitchen sink at him. And I don't know really billionaires, but I would guess that billionaires aren't used to having that kind of crap thrown at them. And you would think that would steel his spine a bit to actually do what he says he's going to do after all the crap that he's gone through.
Absolutely. Yeah, you would think.
Just on a retribution kind of, vengeance.
Well, yeah, it's your reputation, and were you really beholden to them or not? And I know we only have you for a couple more minutes, Loretta, but speaking of Newsom, he's on his way out. If you can reflect on his time, not only in San Francisco, but as the governor of California and everything that he's done. This is like one of those stupid debate questions. What grade would you give Gavin Newsom in total for what he's done for California?
It depends on if we're talking about civil rights or economic rights.
Let's do economic, because I think that we can all agree that Newsom led the way on things like gay marriage and things like that. But let's talk about our economy, because that's what the Republicans love to come after California and Democrats about, is that we're in the problem that we have because we're one party rule and we just don't know what to do with it.
I'd give him a D because he inherited a great system, and he has done nothing to protect it for the future. If anything, he's allowed the utilities to drag us down like an albatross around our neck.
Mm.
He has enabled the utility overspending to such an extent that it is hobbling California's future.
I love Rev P. Newsom, bye, biatch. He used social issues to cover for his corporate interests, which, you know what? I'll give that comment to you, Rev P, because, I mean, on one hand, I do think that he is right. We praise Gavin Newsom for many of the things he was very forward thinking about regarding, civil rights and those sorts of things. But he dropped the ball many, many times. And I think that it's only fair to call him out on things like that. He was not a perfect governor. Nobody is, but could he have done especially more with the CPUC, PG&E, when California was, and has been on fire for so long? I just think he completely failed when it comes to
oil and gas, insurance, healthcare, schools.
Yeah.
California is a big economy because California has always been a big economy, because California has had a great economy for decades. This wasn't Gavin Newsom's doing. And by the way, he inherited California as the 4th largest economy in the world, and now it's the 5th.
Boom. Well, if that isn't saying everything, right? There we go. Well, on that note, Loretta Lynch, we thank you so much for being here and taking the full hour with us. We want to have you back again. I cannot wait to see what happens on Tuesday. And obviously leading up, we're going to have you back on. Do you promise to come back on with us? Because we love you so much.
Love to. You guys are the best. Thank you for speaking truth to power and trying to hold power accountable.
Oh, thank you. Loretta Lynch, former president of the CPUC. Thank you again so much for being here, and go vote on Tuesday, guys. Go vote. Yep. All right. Thanks, Loretta.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you later. Okay. Bye-bye. Oh, I love having her on.
I always feel so much smarter after I like a conversation with Loretta Lynch, and I'm like, oh, excellent.
All right. So are you voting for Steyer?
Encyclopedia. She's really got me thinking. I mean, she really has me. She's really.
You're not going to vote for Becerra, are you?
I was thinking about it. I have to go look at the polls she was talking about, but yeah, I think she's got me a little more excited about this race with Steyer. And here's my thinking. And so say we vote for Steyer, right?
Yes, right.
And he doesn't make a move on single payer healthcare for California, which I think would be huge.
Okay.
And he doesn't reduce our rates for PG&E. He gets into office and he's like, well, it's a little harder than I thought it would. I only have 2 spots on the CPUC. And he does nothing. He talks a big talk and gets in there and he's like, meh, I like to be the governor. That's all.
Right.
Remember when there was a recall effort against Governor Gavin Newsom? I know it was expensive, but if Steyer sucks, there's always that option.
True. And I will say this. I understand your kind of fear of like, what if he doesn't do nearly close to what he's promised?
Right.
I don't think Javier Becerra even wants to do what Steyer is promising. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, like, as far as like the PG&E and things like that. And I'm not trying to bag on Javier Becerra, but he's never had my vote. Like, I was Katie Porter, and then I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do.
It's just not very exciting. Like, you wonder, does he even want the job?
I feel like, and he dodges questions all of the time. There was this article. Oh God, I thought I had it up. And one of the headline basically was that Javier Becerra knows not to ever say he's sorry. And it was about kind of what Loretta was talking about with the legal issues and what could possibly become the October surprise. And he's just not even dealing with it. He's acting like the victim. And I think it's giving him a blind spot.
Yeah.
He should, if he does become, and he's obviously right now the front runner, he should be handling that right now in the primary so it doesn't become an issue. But it seems like he wants to just first get into the primary and then, or into the general, and then he'll deal with it, which if we end up with a Republican against you is a huge problem. It's absolutely, and that just screams old school politician to me. That screams, I have it in the bag. I don't have to worry about it. And I don't like that. I don't.
No, I don't either. And the truth is, we have some pretty big problems in California.
Absolutely.
Right. Some things that we've tried to, and former other politicians have said, we're going to try to attack homelessness. We're going to throw money at all these problems. We're going to do all these things. We're going to fix our potholes. We're going to fix our bridges. We're going to, and then here we are in 2026. And I don't really feel like enough movement has been made on any of it.
No, exactly. Big promises, but no big moves or solutions. No big change to the status quo. And
Yeah.
Javier Becerra screams status quo.
Yeah, he
And
does.
I don't want to be like, but I also don't want to be, and I'm not trying to compare the two, but like a Trumper where it's like, well, screw it. We don't like these guys, so we're just going to put in this guy.
There's something to be said for the Democratic status quo, and that is, it didn't Governor Gavin Newsom codify a woman's right to choose into the California Constitution?
Right.
That's huge to me.
Of course.
Okay, I come from a blue state.
Yeah.
I don't want my daughter to have fewer rights than I had.
I agree.
So you say he's just a Democrat. Well, there's some things that Democrats do that are important to me. The environment, as I mentioned earlier, offshore oil drilling, protecting our California coast, huge to me.
But do you think that Tom Steyer is less than Javier Becerra on those issues?
That's the thing, is I just don't know him, but I'm willing to give it a shot. I feel like I'm willing to go for the exciting candidate. My sister was talking about single payer healthcare, and she works in the health industry. She's a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she really wants to see that come to fruition in California. It seems like anytime a politician talks about single payer health, insurance companies come out of the woodwork to slap them down and try to make it not happen. If Steyer gets in there and actually makes that happen for Californians, think of how many lives he could save. Think of how much better our lives could be.
Absolutely.
So, there's a lot of exciting what ifs, and then there's some also scary dark what ifs about him, and I think that the bottom line just comes down to, are you willing to take the chance?
Yeah. I mean, Gordon, nurses want Steyer. If Bernie's willing to back Steyer, you should trust him. That's the other thing, the endorsement factor. Loretta Lynch is backing Tom Steyer.
That's pretty big to me, because
that's huge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When Bernie came out and said he was supporting Tom Steyer, I was like, whoa. I even talked about it on the show. I was like,
yeah,
I didn't really see that coming, but I do trust Bernie Sanders. Like, there are endorsements that hold weight in my eyes. Right. And Bernie Sanders and then Loretta Lynch on the more local side is huge to me. If she's willing to kind of take the gamble, which I think it is, because he's not a regular politician, yada, yada, yada. You guys know I don't believe billionaires should exist. I have a problem with that whole
right.
I do. I fundamentally don't believe. I believe the system is broken if we can have billionaires at the same time we have so many economic problems, right? And people living on the streets. But if Tom Steyer is so rich that he's not beholden, I don't know. It's so hard. So I'm not. You know what? I want to tell the truth. I'm 99.9 going to vote for Steyer. Let me just go on record and say that. I really don't want Javier Becerra. Now, would I love it if it was Becerra and Steyer? Like, all of you Becerra people, knock yourself out. Perfect. But I can't vote for Javier Becerra. I just don't think that.
If it comes down to it. And
if it's against a Republican, I'm voting for Javier Becerra.
If it's Hilton versus Becerra.
Of course, but that's in the general. I'm talking about the primary. Exactly. Yeah. So, we'll see. So how many of you, let me know in the comments, have you mailed in your ballot? Have you not mailed in your ballot? I mean, so it's Thursday right now when we're doing the show live. So there's Friday, and I guess Saturday you could put it in the mail too. And then Monday, I walk mine in. I don't even mess around. I put it in the box myself, slap my sticker on, I'm good to go. Because it's literally right across the street from my house. It's almost just as easy to put it in my mailbox as it is to drop it off. I don't know. I'm just waiting to the last minute because who knows what's going to happen. You know what I mean? But but honestly, the whole October surprise thing, I don't think I gave too much weight to the whole Becerra scandal. If it's only him versus, let's say, Hilton, that's frightening.
It really is. Yeah.
Because all it has to do, it doesn't even have to make people vote for Hilton. It just has to keep people home. That's the problem.
Sal says, I already voted for Steyer. I mailed it in last night. That's
it. There you go. Went in person. Louise said it too. Went in person last Saturday. We get early voting. I mean, I have my ballot. You know what I mean? I just like to fill it out myself. So, And it's so big. I keep laughing every time I open it and I see 60 names for governor. I'm like, Kim, you should have put your name in there. Everybody can be governor. Who knows?
Sue Ann says, I voted for Steyer specifically about PG&E, walked it into the Atherton City Hall, drop-in ballot box, skipped the U.S. Post Office, just walked it straight in.
Yeah. So, and you can get your text message that tells you your ballot's been counted and all that sort of stuff. I already got it that it's been mailed to me, those sort of updates. And that's what I love about people that are like, oh my God, voting's rigged. It's like, do you know how much my ballot is tracked? like I understand exactly when it's coming to me and when it's leaving. So, oh yeah. And Phineas, I do remember the DOJ scandal with Hillary. I mean, thanks, Comey, right? Like, I remember where I was when that broke. And I was like, son of a bitch. I still didn't think Trump would win, and he did. That was obviously his first election, first time becoming president. But I was so mad. I'm like, you're doing this now? Right. You're doing this now. But I do think versus the Comey Clinton thing, which I think was total bullshit in the timing and the non-descriptive criticism against her, which was total BS, given the fact that all politicians were doing what she was accused of doing, but whatever. The Becerra thing has legs. You know what I mean? Like the Becerra thing has significant legs that he's just ignoring
to snowball into something.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
but I also think because he's in the rising to the top of the polls, Democrats will circle the wagons. Teacher Lori says, this just pisses me off, makes me feel helpless that our stupid California system makes it so we cannot vote for the person we want without risking a 2 GOP election. Already voted for Porter and mailed that sucker in.
I think when we just did this top 2 voting, we were really naive in thinking that a Republican could ever be at the top of the ticket. I mean, why would you do that? Right? Like, why would you do that? Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm so interested. I mean, this time next week we'll know, which is crazy. I would, again, I'm going to say it again. I would love for it to be Steyer and Becerra, just so we can hold their feet to the fire. Because if it's Becerra and Clinton or Steyer or Hilton or Steyer and Hilton, we know who we're voting for. I mean, and I don't think it should be like that either. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely don't want Hilton. I think Hilton doesn't know. Talk about someone without experience. I don't even think he really has a concrete plan except, well, the Democrats haven't been doing it well. I feel like that's just what he runs on. And that's not enough to get things done. Not to mention, he still has to work within a Democratic legislature. So what are you going to be able to do without it being an infight, right? So he's not going to be a leader. Hilton won't be. They'll fight against him.
Luis says, guys, Steyer at his worst couldn't be worse than the 2 Republican idiots. I want Steyer, but will endorse any Dem via versus either of those 2 clowns in the general. Yeah, we're with you on that.
Thank you for the $5 donation, you guys. And again, we are 100% crowdfunded, so we appreciate every dollar that we are getting. And another thank you to Loretta Lynch with the CPUC. I think it was Phineas or someone said in the comments, I will pull the interview of Loretta out after the show so you guys can watch it again and share it. Because we got to share it before the election. That's for damn sure. But speaking about clowns, can I just kind of switch gears a little bit and go from the clowns running for governor and to the clown in the White House? Just because our anniversary of the United States of America is so freaking important that the president of the United States is dying to just spend money that we don't have apparently, but on this gigantic party on the White House lawn. If you have not seen the pictures, Google it. The octagon-shaped cage for a UFC fight is being erected on the South Lawn as we speak. And if there is anything that screams clown show, it is this. Like, even when Joe Rogan, of all people, is like, maybe we shouldn't do it. That has to tell you something. Joe Rogan is one of the guys that, like, when it's indoors, he's doing play-by-play commentary, right? So he's a UFC guy. He thinks that he has a big problem with it. He doesn't think it looks good. But do you want to know what his other big issue is? That it shouldn't be outside because it's going to be too hot for the fighters, for the UFC fighters. That there's bugs, temperatures can be in the low 100s. And so he has a big old problem with that. You know what I have a problem with? I have a problem with the amount of money that this president thinks we need to spend on the 250th anniversary of this country. and his birthday. For what? For what? Is anybody like begging for this? Is it? Yeah, there it is. It looks, and he keeps calling it like the state fair or like some sort of fair, America's fair or whatever. Nobody wants this. And now people are like, they've announced the entertainers, country music star Martina McBride, rappers Flo Rida and Vanilla Ice, which I'm like, really? Okay, whatever. And CNC Music Factory, as well as Bret Michaels, which does not surprise me, are supposed to be part of this. But do you know who's pulled out? Kim, did you see this headline about who had to put out a statement saying that they're not doing it?
4 artists have pulled out so far.
I think I heard 2 or 3, but the fact that Milli Vanilli was like, we haven't worked in forever, but no.
No. Also Morris Day.
Oh yeah, Morris Day and the Time.
Time. They're not doing it.
They're not doing it. Yeah.
Young MC says, not doing it.
They're saying it's partisan. They say it's because it's a partisan event. It's not nonpartisan, so they don't want to do it.
And there's a 4th artist. Let's see.
I knew the Commodores. The Commodores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like, there's several artists that are still signed up, but every day there's another one that's like, I'm going to back out of this one.
Well, and now here's my question. Okay. And let me know in the comments. If it was anybody but Trump doing this, would we be so against a huge celebration for our 250th anniversary? I'm not going to say we love our round numbers and these kind of anniversary dates, right? 250 years is 250 years. I'm not saying it's not momentous, right? I mean, It's momentous, but at a time when we are at war, when people are paying out the ass for everything right now, it just is like, read the room. Do we need this right now? Or is it like, you know what? We need to be all together and united as a country, and it's something we can't not address.
Your comment about if it was anybody else, would we feel this way? And I feel like if it was anybody else, the celebration of 250 years of America would not be so trailer trash. Like it would be more of a classy situation. Like there would be perhaps a symphony and fireworks, right? There would be a
great fireworks show. Yeah.
Yeah. There would be a national concert. Like, something.
We would have some top singers too. No offense to Vanilla Ice and CNC Music Factory, but I kind of feel like we'd be bringing out the Celine Dion, the Adele's, you know what I mean? Like,
just spends money on stuff that's like classless. As a matter of fact, I saw this meme, and I'll read it to you. It says, half the White House is torn down. There's gunshots near the White House. There's cage fights on the front lawn. This is the most ghetto-ass White House ever. And that's kind of how it feels. Like, so this is not a celebration for me. The fact that there's UFC fights on the front lawn of the White House and the most tacky display, this is not how we celebrate 250 years of America. We celebrate 250 years of America by reiterating that our pledge, our
promise as a country, what we did, yes,
on the Constitution. We reaffirm that that we believe in our Constitution. We reaffirm all the reasons we're great. It's not like a party with a keg and fights on the front lawn. Seriously, there's also a massive flag over the dam near Las Vegas.
The Hoover Dam. Was it the Hoover Dam or is it different?
Yeah,
it's the Hoover Dam, right? Yeah.
And it's huge. It's like they're spending money on these things. It's like, what are you doing?
But you know what I love about that flag over the Hoover Dam? It is such a great analogy for this country because behind that dam is like the lowest level of water.
Right.
Because and that's what it is. It's like, let's just put like patriotism over the problem. It's like, can we stop? We have major problems.
We're slapping a veneer of patriotism over the problem. Now take that money and all the amperes of power that are being spent to light up the flag and do whatever. And
every night.
Right. How about we develop a solution to this drought, or to how we can shore things up there at the lake, how we can help fix the problem. Keep your lit up, disco Las Vegas flag.
Tacky. Exactly.
Come on, man.
It's awful. It's and again, there's a problem behind that flag. And that's exactly what America is right now.
Mean-
We're trying to lie to ourselves and it's not working.
Meanwhile, I don't know if you have been paying attention to the reflecting pool and they're
The painting of it. Oh
Now-
my God.
Now we've got another thing they're painting, the World War II fountain. Trump says he's going to paint that in a lighter shade of blue. His focus and at the conference that he had at the cabinet meeting, they go around and they kiss his ass and they say, "Oh, you're the
spent
best."
30 minutes doing that crap. Yeah.
One of them said, "You're just the best builder. You're the best renovator. You're the best blah, blah, blah. If I wanted a builder, I think there's a few contractors we could hire."
Exactly.
I don't need the president of the United States focusing on painting the reflecting pool. Somebody else can do that baloney.
Nobody asked for it.
Great. Nobody asked for it. But if it needs to be fixed, it needs to be fixed. We have to, take care and maintain the things we have properly. I get that. But he's spending these egregious amounts of money to upgrade these things in ways that nobody wants. And instead, the things he should be focused on are not being focused on.
Nope.
And he's flapping his mouth and instead causing the world problems. Let me just throw these things out here,
please,
because he just cannot stop. I don't know if you saw him say that Oman needs to get on board, and if they don't get on board with not charging tariffs or fees in the Strait of Hormuz, tolls, that we're going to blow them up too.
Exactly. He's insane.
Hideous, horrible rhetoric. Like, does no one see that the president is freaking nutso? Then so he goes to Walter Reed for his,
his perfect health assessment. Yeah.
Exam, and he visits some soldiers there, but you know who he doesn't visit? 14 of them that were injured in Trump's Iran war. The people that he's personally responsible for sending there. What does he do? Doesn't visit them. No.
That's crazy.
No can do. I mean, he should have asked to go see them.
Those were the first people those were the only, if you couldn't make time for anything else, those are the people you see.
Thank you. The Pentagon is now putting building blocks in place to invade Cuba. And if that's not enough, the world is falling apart, and straight off a visit from China, Trump is home now, and now China's accusing a Dutch warship of provocative acts in the South China Sea. And every time I read a story, how more and more, and the Czech Republic is now coming to our aid in Iran. Like, what? I guess we're friends with the Czech Republic now?
We need to help where we can get it, apparently.
Like, I feel that nothing, like, up is down and down is up.
Oh, it has been.
Nothing makes sense. And the more he opens his mouth, the more bad things happen in the world. You got North Korea testing ballistic missiles that they say are smarter and have a bigger range. Does anybody pay attention to the fact that when Trump does something, all of a sudden the rest of the world reacts?
Well, exactly. And let's also throw into this another effing possible international public health crisis with Ebola, because they got rid of US aid. And so now all of the tracing happening in Africa for this Ebola outbreak that's exploding right now is crazy, because they're like, well, we got decimated. With the US aid, the WHO, our CDC, which is a friggin' joke. These are all the things that happened under Trump's watch and because of him. And yet he did all of that because we were broke under Doge. And yet we have all the money to do this white trash party on the White House lawn.
But thanks, Trump, as Vilma writes, we have money for a ballroom, but not for school lunches for kids, and not for healthcare for Americans. But we get a ballroom, we get a blue reflecting pool, we get a Miami blue World War II pond or fountain. I disagree with something. I love Gavin. I fancy this to be Gavin Newsom, but I know you're not Gavin Newsom. But Gavin says this country is a complete embarrassment. Check mark and an agreement. This is the part I don't agree with. I won't put out an American flag decoration due to it being co-opted by MAGA.
I understand the sentiment, though.
I understand your sentiment, but I maintain they don't own the flag.
Yeah,
that is for you and me, and the flag means something different to you and I than it does to them. And I refuse to relinquish the American flag to a bunch of people who are not respecting it or what it stands for, which is the Constitution. So if the more of us who let them have it, who don't put up those decorations, who don't, stand behind the flag, then the more we're saying you can have that symbol. I'm not going to let them have that symbol.
Yeah.
You saw recently this guy in San Diego had a Trump house.
I know.
He had his house wrapped in the flag. I mean, from, one end to the other with Trump signs all over the place. And he lives in San Diego, a border town, right? Where one could assume that people are really upset about ICE. I don't advocate anybody getting hurt or killed like this guy did because he lived in the MAGA house. He got a beat down and he ended up dying. But I have to say, you know how they blame women for wearing provocative clothes before they get attacked?
Kim McAllister.
If you're going to do that, and if you're going to be the kind of person that blames the victim, then why would you, knowing that it's provocative, in a place where there are people that are having their lives ripped apart by ICE and everything else, slap your house in Trump signs?
Because it's his First Amendment right to do so, which is exactly what he said before he died.
Before he died, I do feel bad that anybody was hurt, and that I'm not advocating that.
Of course not.
But what I'm saying is, I don't let guys like that have the flag.
No.
The flag is something different. The flag is something that, people have fought and died for what that represents. And MAGA people who don't represent it, who don't understand what the Constitution is about, who are just stupid and vacuous and don't get anything, they don't get to have that flag. No. They don't get to have that symbol.
No, not. And we put up our flag for Memorial Day. And obviously throughout the summer, and obviously the 4th of July is coming, our 250th anniversary. But I agree with you, Kim. I think we get to have the flag because we're also Americans. And I do think there is nothing more American than also being disappointed by the people that run your country, right?
Agreed.
Like that is what we were founded on, is by keeping people in check. And it's a constant thing. I think generationally, maybe the baby boomer era, even though not even then, every generation has its wars, its, strife. And it seems so much more elevated. Thank you, social media and the internet and connecting us all in this way. But to think that we're the only generation to go through something like this is incorrect. But we are the generation with Donald Trump as president twice. And that is enough. That is enough for me. The guy is falling asleep. He's ill. He's mentally not there. The Republican Party will call out Joe Biden, but not Donald Trump. And I just can't wait for it to be over. He even said it. Donald Trump came in and said, I don't care about the midterms. All I care about is Iran and blah, 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 blah. I was like, fine, say it louder for those in the back, because we don't need to vote for you anymore. Please. I really don't want you here anymore.
I have to tell you that we have a special flag flying outside of our house on occasions like 4th of July. What is it, David? What kind of flag did you buy?
Oh,
he's here. Can you hear him?
Yeah.
Okay. So during 2016, when Trump first got elected, I bought a flag for 1863 to 1865 that has 35 stars on it.
Okay.
And it was to symbolize that no matter what this orange idiot does, we survived a war where brother killed brother.
Yeah.
We survived 4 years of a civil war. Turns out you can fly any flag. Any flag is legal, it turns out. So a flag with 35 stars is still a legitimate flag to fly.
There you go.
What's funny is people look at it and the stars aren't offset. And so occasionally someone will look at it and go, something about that flag isn't quite right.
It doesn't have enough stars on it.
Count the number of stars, dummy.
I say, yes.
That's my protest.
It's your personal protest. It's the message you want to send, but you're still sending the flag. You're still flying the flag. You're still, showing that you believe in what America is meant to stand for. So that's what's flying in front of my house, and I'm like, go get it.
Well, and a Marine Corps flag.
There it is. That's what, and it does look like a regular flag until you start looking at it more closely and you count the stars, and there's only 35 stars. And it was produced in the final years of. Well, this is a rare one, so it's out of stock, but produced in the final years of the Civil War. It was used between July 4th, 1863 and July 3rd, 1865. That's when the state of West Virginia was admitted as the 35th state in the Union. And anyways, you can't buy this one. It's out of stock. But that's what it looks like.
And I like that message too. Like if we can get through that, if we can get through that, then we can get through this.
And that's what, this guy's
great. A grifting bonehead. We can make our way through this, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And thank you so much, Sal, for the $20 donation. Great show tonight, as always. Great info from Loretta.
Yeah.
It was honestly, this was one of our top shows. I will definitely, if you're just joining us and you missed our live conversation with Loretta Lynch, the former president of the CPUC, we talked everything California governor's race and PG&E, which is, again, one of the biggest issues facing our state right now. And is going to play a big deal in our next election that's happening on Tuesday. So I don't want anybody that's part of our show, Kim McAllister. If you're going to fly the flag, if you're an American, you need to vote on Tuesday.
Yep.
I want to know I'm curious to see what the turnout is going to be here in the state of California for the primary. I want it to be high. Historically, it is low. Primaries do not draw the number of people in the general. Although it does, the general brings all kind of complainers about the people that they have to vote for, even though they did not participate in the choosing of those people. But whatever, everybody needs to vote.
I think this is low, but I saw this study in The Hill, and I'll flash it up there for you. It says that more than half of Americans say they plan to definitely vote in the midterms.
Well, in the midterm, like. In the general or in the primary?
They didn't say primaries.
See, but that's the thing that gets me. You know what I mean? People love to bitch during the general. Oh, there's no good candidate. Well, did you vote in the primary? Were you engaged? Were you supporting a candidate? Were you talking to your neighbors like we do on the Nikki Maduro show all the freaking time? The primary election is so vital. And I feel like it's so... That fact is so not understood by a lot of people, a lot of voters. They're just like, I'll just wait till the general. Okay, well, then you're letting people make literally one of the most important decisions of the election for you. So whatever.
Here's what they said. They said it was an Economist YouGov poll released this week. 57% of respondents said they will definitely vote in the upcoming elections. 11% said they'll probably vote. 11% said they may or may not vote. 7% said they probably won't vote, and 14% said they definitely won't vote. And as for being inspired, 55% of respondents said they were very motivated to cast a ballot. Another 15% they were somewhat motivated. I think it speaks to the number of people that are wanting to come out and vote, the number of people that say they're feeling inspired, which is what 57% of people say they definitely will vote. 55% of people say they're inspired. If that's the case and you're feeling inspired, then I feel that really sheds some light on what could happen in the midterm elections. Yeah.
I'm really optimistic. I'm praying for a blue wave, the blue wave we've been promised. But it requires people to vote. That's the thing. Like, you have to stay engaged. And, I always try to lead by example and talk. Obviously, we do this show and we talk about it all the time, but it's in your personal life. It's people that aren't as necessarily engaged in politics like you are, that you have to say, go get out there and vote. I'm with you, Kim. I'm waiting. I always vote the day of. I'm not specifically voting holding out because I'm waiting for a candidate. Somebody else asked who we're voting for. I'm going to just say it. I know Kim might not. I'm going to vote for Tom Steyer. I wanted Katie Porter. I'm going to say that a million times. I wanted Katie Porter, but at this point, there's no hope in her winning. I'm not an idiot. I know how elections work. I wish she would have done better. I really, really do. She's young, so I know that her political career hopefully isn't over. But yeah, if it's between Javier Becerra and Tom Steyer, I'm doing Steyer. That's who I'm going to go.
Right.
Yeah. So
for people concerned about whether this election will be on the up and up, whether it will be okay, whether, Bianco's whole stealing the voter information will come to pass. There is this, I don't know if you saw this new law in California.
Oh yeah.
Governor
I did see
Gavin
something about that.
Newsom,
Yeah.
it's an urgency measure, so they're going to push it through fast. It's effective immediately, just in time for the primaries here in California, and it is intended to strengthen safeguards against election interference. It places new restrictions on law enforcement. It prohibits someone from allowing officers access to take possession of voting equipment, so they can't come in and do that, because there's been a lot of talk about, oh, is ICE going to be at the polls, right? All that. And it, unless the court allows it for a specific circumstance, it empowers the state attorney general or secretary of state to object to a local election official's decision, allowing officers to be stationed at a voting site. And if you violate this law, you could face criminal penalties.
Good.
Governor Gavin Newsom said there's no rules anymore with the Trump administration.
Nope.
And he signed this bill. And as he was doing so, he said Trump doesn't believe in free and fair elections.
Nope.
And so we're going to safeguard that in California. And I think all states need to have some form of this to keep Trump from scooping in and trying to cheat, because he'll cheat in any way that he can.
And he only thinks there's cheating. Remember, just listen and watch.
Yeah.
He only thinks there's cheating in elections that he loses.
That's right.
He never thinks there's cheating in elections in which they win.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? They only care about blue states. They never care about red states, right?
No.
So it tells you everything you need to know. Amy says, totally agree about Porter. Voting Steyer tonight really helped me make that decision. Good.
Yay.
That's what we were hoping for. That's why we wanted to bring Loretta Lynch on. And again, I had a sneaking suspicion she was going to choose Steyer, but it still kind of blows me away how many people are backing him. It just does. And then there's a part of me like, did we just get sold? Does advertising just work? Is that what happened? I don't know. But I don't see Javier Becerra being the change that we need in California. I just don't.
I agree with Phineas on this one. He says Steyer can't be worse than what we have, plus PG&E.
Exactly.
So I'm inching my way over there, Nikki, I have to say. And I would agree that tonight did go a long way. And the discussion with Loretta Lynch did go a long way in kind of opening my eyes and turning me toward that direction. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, I thank all of you for being here. Now, again, we will be here next Thursday, 5:00. Bring your friends. We're going to go over, obviously, the election results, which will be at that point a few days old. But I still cannot wait to see the results because it's been a long time coming. I mean, think about how many candidates we've had for governor. I mean, obviously, there's a ton on the ballot, but how many legitimate, chances these people had that we had, and who it's going to end up being. I am surprised that Javier Becerra was at the top. I really didn't see it happening, but my dream is that it's Becerra and Steyer. Like, that is what I hope, that all of the polls have been building up Steve Hilton so much that it's actually drawing out more people to vote for either Steyer or Becerra. So
what did they say, Nikki? From your lips to God's ears.
Exactly. Well, from my lips to all of your guys' ears, let me give some thank yous, because you guys were very generous. And I do thank, again, Loretta Lynch for coming on. Yeah. If you missed it, I will be pulling that interview. Cindy gave us a $10 donation. Thank you so much, Cindy, for that. Oh, I lost it. There's Cindy.
That was Cindy. Yeah.
And then next is Luis. You can handle it. There we go. Luis, thank you for the $5 donation. We love seeing your name in the chats. We appreciate your donations so very much. Luis actually gave a couple donations. Yeah. Jim gave us a $5 donation as well. Thank you, Jim. Luis came back with another $10. And I didn't read this comment. I want to read it now. Props to Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine for organizing the insanely awesome Power to the People Festival in DC, featuring the boss, Foo Fighters, Dave Matthews, and more. Way better than Donald Trump's crap fest. Yeah, that's the party you'd want to go to. And again, proves my point. Like, other parties get better talent.
Right.
Amy, thank you for the $10 super sticker. You
Amy.
absolutely rock. And then Sal the Shoemaker, $20. Great show tonight. Thank you guys for being here.
Yep.
And as always, we love being here and doing the show for all of you. If you could support us in any way, the easiest way is clicking that thumbs up button and sharing the show with your friends. When I pull the interview with Loretta, please share it, because I think a lot of people are like us and still on the fence, right? Yeah. And Loretta Lynch might be able to help them choose who they want to vote for.
That's
so
right.
If you want to support us through our Patreon, you can do that. We love PayPal because they don't take a cut. So our PayPal link is also in the show notes. And again, just being here every Thursday, you guys, we absolutely love you. And that's why we're here. And we cannot wait again to talk about what happens next week. So be here next Thursday, 5 o'clock Pacific time, or whenever you can catch us. We do go back into YouTube and read the comments. So don't think that they're just like lost in the ether or whatever. All right. So turn in your ballot, slap on the I voted sticker, tell your friends to vote, and we will see you back here next week, 5 o'clock. Bye. Love you.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. Miss Brown, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.